has the accountability portion of the last few months been in respects to like you staying on track and having success and all those things?
It's been good. Actually, the last month has been brutal, to be honest.
Okay,
It's
good.
been hard. And I'm like, oh shit, now we're done. What
Yeah.
am I going to do? Right. Because I'm like, this is when the shit gets real. Like, it's getting really hard right now,
Yeah.
where the honeymoon stage of it is over. Like, the excitement's over. And it's like, I was journaling about it today, actually. Like, the consistency is what's going to have to keep me going.
Yeah. It's that thing. It's
It's
like when
hard right now.
you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because I think for a lot of people, it's like the initial phases and stages of everything are always really exciting, right? It's always like, oh my gosh, it's like the lights are on. It's like everybody's watching. It's really exciting. And then all of a sudden it's like, I've had the same experience with clients who've lost like 100 pounds. It's like, but as soon as they lost the 100 pounds, then it's almost sudden like the lights just went off and they still had more weight to lose, but it wasn't as exciting because it was like that pinnacle had been reached. So for you, I mean, if we look at the goals, I mean, the goal is 155. Today we're 173. So we've got, I mean, I'm horrible. Is that like 17 pounds, 18 pounds, something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to lose, and there's no reason why we can't. You've already lost 20, right? If we just keep the same system, the same consistency, the same commitment, the same everything, like that 17, 18 pounds is going to be, I mean, I'm going to use the word easy. I know it's not going to be easy, but it's not going to be this like complex algorithm that you need to try to figure out. You already know how to do it. So what are your strategies? What are you going to utilize in order to keep that consistency and the accountability and the support and all that jazz?
My group.
Yeah.
The Thrive group. And I've got a lot of really cool, a bunch of awesome people in my group here.
Good.
And online too. Like, I've got Al and Joanne and Tiffany, they're my pod. So we reach out once a week. So I have to really hammer down on that.
Yeah. And you got to make sure that you don't get complacent on that, because I think a lot of times, like when things do get challenging, we tend to get complacency around, checking in and asking for that extra support and asking for that extra. So I like the vulnerability of your post today, because it showed that you're not willing to just say, oh, screw it. Like, I'll kind of figure this out on my own. And so I think it's important that you continue to keep being vulnerable and keep posting those things when you're struggling. It's okay to struggle. Like, struggle doesn't mean failure. And I think a lot of times we attach those two things together. All struggle means is you need a little bit of extra support that day, or that in that moment, or in that activity. And I think I know it's totally necessary to ask for it. And so keep doing that. Keep relying on the support system of the group.
That was what I was journaling today, actually. I was posting it and I thought, this is something I need to be talking to Jay about.
Yeah, totally.
Like, how do I, overcome this body image thing? Anyways, that's for another time. But
well, I think it's one of those things where, we'll touch on a little bit here. It's like, that's part of like the limiting belief system that you have, right? It's like, you're still visual, even though you've lost 20 pounds just in this small stint, not to count what you've lost before. You're feeling good. Your workouts are great. Like, physically, when you look in the mirror, like you can identify a new version of you, because it's a 20-pound difference in what you used to look like. But that subconscious brain still keeps kicking back those reflectionary pictures of you're not this new version. You're the same old version, the 193-pound version that you were when you started. And that's challenging to overcome. And so it's really just a limiting belief of, is this real? Am I going to stay here? Can I consistently do this? And what's the next step for me? Like, how does it look? And so it's one of those things where there's a lot of work that we're going to need to do to continue to move toward that new version of you actually believing it. But the key things are limiting the self-sabotage, right? Because that's what we usually do. And when we start to have that limiting belief, we're like, well, if that's who I believe I am, if that's what my identity is, then I'll just act as if that person would act. And the results of that, like that's when you start gaining weight and losing momentum. So what you've got to do is you've got to identify and continue to fortify that belief system that you are this new version, and create that new identity of yourself so that you act like she would act instead of how the old version of you would act, right? And so it's those moments in those decisions. It's like, what decision would she make? And she's the version of you that you are today, not that old version that got you stuck and didn't have you thriving in those areas that you wanted to be thriving in.